Are there any current disagreements in mathematics? Perhaps new mathematics is being need to flourish mathematics in its integrity. Examples could be how to give a real mathematical meaning for random nonlinear PDs with a spatial and temporal white noise. The real mathematical meaning of quantum fields, constructive field theory at 4 dimensions, or to settle definitively if several complex variable theory is a viable and rich theory as the case of one variable. One thing is sure on pure mathematics. Functional analysis on its basic aspect is now arithmetic for a competent pure mathematician. And foundational questions remains as axioms and open problems, the continuum hypothesis for instance. At this point perhaps it would be profit for the food for thought to remember von Neumann outburst into a famous letter, nearly half a century ago, as a mathematical discipline travels far from its empirical source, or still worse, if it is a second or third generation only indirectly inspired by ideas coming from mathematical attempts to understand scientifically the real world, it is beset with very grave danger. It becomes more and more purely aesthetization, more and more purely l'art, abstract, pour l'art, abstract. As a result, it is strongly always present the grave danger of the subject develops along the lines of least resistance, that it becomes a disorganized mass of details and artificial mathematical complexities, settled by community agreement and not by the proof mathematical correctness. In other words, after much set theoretic abstract inbreeding of practical problems coming from the real world, the subject could become simply unworthy and truly degenerated in the sense it leads to nowhere. I understand this isn't exactly what you asked, but it functions at such a fundamental level on the field of mathematics, that it is no doubt worth being mentioned. Currently, perhaps the biggest disagreement in mathematics is on how to properly teach the discipline in elementary and high schools. A little all over the world, teachers and elected governments have been locked in a conflict that has been lasting for a decade or so. On one hand, governments have been trying to relax mathematics teaching, facilitating exams and creating light, some would say promiscuous, programs as part of an overall strategy to ease the teaching syllabus on elementary and secondary schools. This, almost certainly motivated by a desire to present better school national results at the end of every year as an election tool. On the other hand, teachers and mathematicians in general have been trying to stop these programs, arguing for a more rigorous and disciplinary approach to mathematics as the correct means of both teaching and preparing students for college and life in general. At the same time promising that the increased rigor should be accompanied by new and better methods of teaching that can ensure students' understanding of the themes. This battle is raging all over the Western world. And it doesn't seem to have an end in sight. I'm not sure if this rises to the level of Cantor, Kronecker, but Doron Zielberger versus the rest of the world might be considered significant. For those who don't know, Zielberger has quite a few opinions that he publishes on his website, Opinions of Doron Zielberger. For those who don't know of Zielberger, it might be tempting to look at these opinions and conclude that he's a crackpot. But that is certainly not the case. He's a top-flight combinatorialist, among other distinctions. My own speculation is that, while he genuinely holds these beliefs to be true, he expresses them in an intentionally provocative way. Although some of his opinions are about mathematics education e.g. Doron Zielberger's 28th opinion smiley face, or mathematics culture e.g. Doron Zielberger's 77th opinion, he also does opine on purely mathematical topics e.g. Doron Zielberger's 76th opinion. His mathematical philosophy is definitely not mainstream. I'd describe him as a super-hyper-constructionist. He once began a colloquium I attended with this question: what did Newton and Leibniz have in common? After the requisite moment of silence, and then the requisite mumblings about calculus, he shouted, "No. They were both crackpots." He went on to attack infinities and infinitesimals in mathematics. Newton and Leibniz, having used the latter, were therefore crackpots. To be sure, for all this provocation and apparent cantankerousness, Zielberger struck me as a charismatic and affable guy.